Another week, another new high for Bitcoin, which soared above $4,500 per coin this week. How high can it go and what does it mean? Well, just to give you an impression of what's going on here, Bitcoin has doubled in August. Many, many years ago, 5 years ago, I remember having a debate around a dinner table when Bitcoin was 30 as to whether it could ever hit 100. That seemed outlandish at the time. We now know the answer to that. Question is, where can it go from here? Before we talk about that, once again, remind you of our view of Bitcoin in general, which is that this is the perfect asset for a speculative bubble. This is a very interesting new technology. It's a limited supply. It's theoretically worth anything because it has no intrinsic value, and it actually does have some practical use. Bitcoin transactions are increasing pretty much week by week over time, which is good. And so if you're looking at Bitcoin from a fundamental perspective, the unit that you want to track actually is Bitcoin transactions. The more it is used, the more embedded it gets in society. Arguably, the more it is worth. That could support a value. But don't believe anybody that tells you there's some intrinsic value here. There isn't. We've said in the past, Bitcoin could ultimately be worth $1 or $1 million. There's nothing holding it back. And a lot of speculators are looking at it and saying, look, the most I can lose if I bet on Bitcoin is 100%. The most I can make is 100 times my money or more. That sounds like a good trade. And if you are a speculator and you are willing to lose everything, those odds do work. And so they are definitely working out for a lot of people. But where does it go from here? Again, focus on Bitcoin transactions for Bitcoin. Gives you a sense of how it is being adopted into society. But something else to watch as you look at Bitcoin is the rise of other cryptocurrencies. Pretty much every cryptocurrency is now going up again. Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, which was recently forked off of Bitcoin, suddenly seeing a resurrection in its price. So folks are suddenly going crazy about cryptocurrencies in general. That is often a warning sign. Back in the dot-com bubble, which I was intimately familiar with, we saw a lot of profoundly strong companies like Amazon, Yahoo in those days, AOL. Their stock prices were doing incredibly well, but so were the stock prices of lots of companies that ultimately didn't have very strong fundamentals, and ultimately those companies, the stock prices went to zero. So if you're thinking of speculating on cryptocurrencies, sure, for a short term, you may be all right in any of them, but ultimately Bitcoin is the brand. So we will keep tracking this.